Hi, I'm Ann Machado. I'm a retired businesswoman um, and currently a philanthropist and an advocate. And I've been involved with the Women's Fund since the very earliest days. I think it was around 1992 or 93 when we had our first grant cycle. We were so proud that we could give what seems today is like small amounts, $1,000 here and there. But as I look back over my very long relationship with the Women's Fund, I realized that those little grants were the perfect seeds to grow some of the very best women's organizations and institutions ever. One that immediately comes to mind, of course, is Lotus House. I remember that we gave them their first $1,000 grant, and and now today they're just a shining example of a great institution that is a part of the fabric of Miami. The thing that really hooked me on the Women's Fund was the mission. It was my first real opportunity when we started our grant cycle to feel like I could be a part of a cycle of change in our community. We started out first just giving grants, but then we wanted to engage with the grantees. And before we knew it, we were teaching them how to write the grants, how to expand their mission. And I just love that every time I looked at something the Women's Fund was doing, it just kept getting bigger and better. A lot of organizations can't say that. They sort of get off in a flame and take off, and then they somewhat get stuck, and it doesn't happen. I've been involved with the Women's Fund. I guess it's getting close to, I hate to say it, 30 years. And over that time, I've been a board member. I've been a donor, of course, a woman of vision. I'm currently I am chairing the Power of the Purse this year, the lunch that is the main fundraiser for the Women's Fund. And it just excites me that I can still be a part of what the Women's Fund is doing, and that I can be very proud, as I am, of what I see them doing and how they're growing. I'm especially proud that in the last decade, they've really committed themselves to advocacy where they see change is needed. They don't wait for someone else to do it. They're there. Human trafficking, most people didn't even know what that was. The Women's Fund said, it's there, it's real, here's what it is, and here's what we do about it. Domestic violence, people weren't talking about domestic violence. The first domestic violence conference I went to was put on by the Women's Fund. I frankly don't know where women in our community would be without them today. One of the things that really stands out in my mind was the first it wasn't called the Power of the Purse. It was the first Women's Fund luncheon. And I think we had about 106 women there. But the excitement in the room was palpable, and you could see that we were building a community of women that wanted to know about philanthropy, wanted to come together, wanted to collectively make a change. To now host the Power of the Purse, which will hopefully again, as we in the past got up to 1,000 people. And by the way, that's the largest number of people that can be in a ballroom in Miami. That's so exciting. How many people can look back and say, gee, this was my idea and look where it is today? I cannot begin to tell you how important it is to have faith, to believe, and to act on it. All of the women I've met through the Women's Fund, and many of them are still colleagues and friends, were all super dedicated to the same mission that I am, and that's to positively affect change on the lives of women and girls in this community. What does the Women's Fund mean to me personally? I think most of all, what it means is that I truly believe that I am making a difference. I have connected with women that are of like mind. but with different skill sets. Some of the incredible women that are involved with the Women's Fund um, are just so smart, so sophisticated, and so knowledgeable about various different topics. So when we come together collectively, we really have all the tools we need to affect change. I'm also overwhelmed by the number of women I know who have continued to contribute money, time, but especially money that makes our granting possible. Many of them, like me, have been involved for many years, decades, and they're still there. Why? Because they know their money is being used properly and for good purposes. A lot of charities, you donate, you don't know what happens to their money. The Women's Fund is very visible in where their money goes and how it's spent. And they welcome anyone to question any concern they might have. I never hesitate to say, give time if you have it. If you don't, just give money. It'll be the catalyst that makes everything possible. My vision for the Women's Fund hasn't changed in close to 30 years. I still hope that we will not need to be so involved in the lives of women and girls as a support system or a corrective action committee, but more just as an enhancement. We're not there yet. There are a lot of people in our communities, women, girls, and that means families, that are suffering a lot. And some probably don't even feel they're suffering, but they don't have all the advantages. And we want everyone to have every advantage that they can possibly have. So we're going to continue, I'm sure, to be looking for ways that we can serve and looking for people that need the Women's Fund. Right now, a big project they're working on is to be a resource of data on what is happening in the community. Because sadly, after all these years, it seems that there is no one collecting the information that can justify the time and money that needs to be spent to correct these social ills, I call them. So that's truly exciting. I think that's going to help us tremendously with getting funds from locally on the state level and also on the federal level, because you need data. We live in a data society. So that's my story about the Women's Fund. It's a long and happy and productive engagement. I'm also involved with many other organizations, but none fill my heart as much as the Women's Fund. It just, it's a feel good, I made a difference, and I can still do more. Wow, I can't believe at my age I'm saying that, but you know what? That's how I feel. I'm retired now and I'm ready to take on the next decade and all that comes with it.